Where did the gospel go? You know, it strikes me that we're living in a time of serious disillusionment when it comes to the validity, the authority, and the power of the gospel. We find ourselves wading through a church culture which so often leaves the gospel behind for various other kinds of approaches and methods. Well, if we just entertain the masses, they say, we'll get them in here and then we'll preach the gospel. The trouble with that is that what it took to get somebody into church is probably what it's going to take to keep them there. Where is the gospel? In the churches today, we throw away biblical authority, and each person is just supposed to kind of be his own bishop and decide for himself. Where is the power of the gospel? Listen, I want to encourage you this way with just a few thoughts on the topic of the gospel. Listen, the gospel is the only way forward. The gospel is the only thing that has the power to change people's hearts and subsequently change their lives. So what does that mean for you and I? If we are adherents of the gospel, if we recognize the beauty and reality of that simple truth that Jesus died for sinners who had rejected the way of God, that he came to earth to show us how to live. He said, come be my disciples, and then he showed us that the ultimate way for living is dying to self. And that as we die, carrying our own cross becomes not a burden but a joy as we demonstrate the gospel to the world. That simple truth that Jesus saves sinners, changes their lives, transforms our hearts, and then when we become born again, the power of the simplicity of the gospel is the power that compels us, that propels us into the world. So how do we apply that directly if we say, okay, I believe the simplicity of the gospel, those basic affirmations and truths and that way of life that characterized the early church and the disciples who followed after Jesus all the way to the cross. And then once they had become aware of the resurrection, then they proclaimed the truth of Jesus to the world and turned the world upside down. How do we apply that? Well, first, I would suggest this, through service. You and I are going to have to actively engage in being participants in the plan of God to bring redemption to the world. Because only the gospel sets men free from all of the various kinds of false religion that encompass this world. You know, in some places like Haiti, it's obvious. Hey, we need the gospel to set people free from paganism as it takes form in voodoo and in other false practices and religions. And then it's easy for us Americans perhaps, to say, well, they need the gospel over there. Or we say, take it to the developing world, be that in Haiti or elsewhere. They're poor, they need compassion and love. Friend, we need compassion and love just the same, and we have our own kinds of paganism. We have insulated ourselves in the false belief that our wealth, not the gospel, will save us. You and I have got to become active participants in the plan of God in sharing the gospel with every man, woman, and child on this earth. We've got to be obedient to the Great Commission found in Matthew chapter 28. And we've got to live lives consistent with the compassion of Christ found in Matthew 25. What you did unto the least of these, you did unto me. We earn credibility by sharing love. They say in Haiti, sac vide pas camper. An empty sack can't stand up. One time I was in Haiti doing a kind of a teaching seminar, and I said, well, these people not paying attention. I'm so engaging. And my translator, a man who guided me early in Haiti, said, sac vide pas camper. They're hungry. If we get these people some food, they'll have the energy to pay better attention, and then they'll learn. We've got to practically, relevantly, directly, in immediate ways, meet the needs of people. That is riddled all through the Bible, especially in the New Testament teachings like Matthew 25. And then give the gospel, because a man with his stomach full who doesn't know the Lord will still perish. A man with his stomach full and his needs met can still be enslaved in the mind. The gospel sets people free from false beliefs, from past pains, from pagan traditions. Listen, I want to suggest to you today that you and I need to reach this current generation. here and around the world. Someone is going to reach and teach the youth of this generation, why not us, with the gospel. Here's the truth that can set you free, that can guide you into a life of empowerment with God, a life of purpose and meaning, and that brings hope, and you'll have the hope necessary to live in this world. Listen, you and I would also suggest we've got to repurpose and find new and enlivened and deepened conviction in the simplicity of the power of the gospel. That message that we were lost, that we rebelled, that Jesus came not only to show us the way to live, because it's not works that saves us, but to show us the way to live in dying, to carry our cross, to see the life of the church as the life of mission, Matthew 28, and the way we do mission consistent with Matthew 25, that we carry our cross, we bear our burdens, we engage in the suffering of the world in order to share the gospel of Jesus Christ that sets people free now and affords them the hope of eternal connection to the God who loved them enough to save them, set them free, and offer a direct purpose for our life, to follow after Jesus, to strap on our sandals, to pick up our walking stick, and to pursue him as pilgrims in this world, and along the way, to spread seed of the gospel. Listen, God bless you today. Be reminded of this one thing, if nothing else. It is the gospel alone that saved us. It is the gospel alone that carries us. And it is the gospel alone, faith in Jesus Christ because of the grace of God, that sets men free. Amen.